Let us look into particle theory of matter, also referred to as kinetic molecular theory. This will lay foundation for better understanding of science at middle school level. There will be many thought provoking questions which will come across. They will help you in high school. I am Anil Kumar. Welcome to my YouTube channel and the website Global Math Institute. We'll be discussing few important topics in science which will help lay a sound foundation. Understanding matter is very important, and particle theory of matter gives it all. So, to begin with, we will restrict ourselves to the basic particle, which in our case can be atoms, molecules, or ions. I know some of the bright students out there, they get into more details like diving into fermions and bosons. Oh, we are not yet there. So let's be very clear. So for us, particle will mean atoms, molecules, or ions, as the case may be. Perfect. Now there are 6 points which I have identified. The whole video is going to focus on understanding these 6 points of particle which help you to understand what is matter and also make you understand different phases of matter, substances, properties of substances, and so on. So, there onwards, I'm going to release 10 more videos where we will discuss many properties and characteristics of matter based on the particle theory. So I hope you get the objective. And this is indeed one of the most important topic discussed in middle school level for science students. Perfect. So the 6 points really relate to that we are talking about particles which cannot be divided further, right? Indivisible particles, and they have mass. That is the first thing. And second is that there are spaces between the particles. As you can see, the first 2 points define what is matter. Matter is something which has mass and it occupies space. So particle basically gives you insight to matter. You get the whole idea. That is how we are going to look into particle theory from now onwards. I hope it is getting clearer, right? And point number three here is particle in constant motion. So when something is in constant motion and it has mass, that means it has energy. And energy related to motion is kinetic energy. And therefore, this particle theory of matter is also referred to as kinetic molecular theory, right? Make sense? So that is how we are going to move along, understanding every bit of it. So with that clear concepts, you can actually build on and be a great scientist. Now, point number four here is identical particles in pure substance. So if we have a pure substance, there are very few pure substances in nature if you look at on this earth, right? Very few. Reason being that these particles are very reactive, right? So some pure substances which are available in nature are like diamond, right? So there are very few pure substances. We do have inert gases like krypton, neon, argon. There are few pure substances. However, we do have minerals and we can, from different kinds of available impure substances, we can actually refine them, purify them, and get pure substances, right? So we do have pure substances which are made by us. But in a pure substance, Every particle will be same kind, same property. So we say they are identical. Perfect. Point number five, which we need to consider, is higher temperature, faster movement. So if you heat something, the temperature of the matter may increase, and that will yield to faster movements of particles. So the volume may increase, for example, correct? So we'll describe many things which happen by heating, right? And then last one is force of attraction exists between particles. So interparticles, particles could be of same kind having force of attractions or of different kinds. They do have force of attraction. So different kinds of particles, when they have force of attraction, they found a chemical compound, which may be a new thing, right? So based on this, we will further elaborate. So I hope you got the gist of it. And now let's explore in details particle theory of matter. Well, in case you want to learn directly from me, feel free to send an email on globalmathinstitute at gmail.com. For middle school students, we are conducting science courses also. Otherwise, it's all math at our end, right? Perfect. So let's begin with the particle theory. First, two very important points, which are matter is made up of extremely small, indivisible particles with mass, and the second one was there are spaces between the particles. So, with that, what are we really saying? We are really saying that matter, as you know, has two characteristics. One is it has mass, right? And second, it occupies space, means volume. So these two things are defined by the particles themselves. When we say extremely small, then it really depends on what kind of matter are we dealing with. If I am talking about water, for example, pure substance water, for example, then it is the molecule H2O, right? So that is to be very clear, right? If we are talking about hydrogen as a gas, then H2, right? So there are different types of smaller things which we are talking about. H2O in case of water, H2 for hydrogen, right? And for gold, we could have gold or diamond as an individual atom also, right? They may exist in pure form. Perfect. So let's move forward. So I think the first 2 points about particle theory are very clear. They really define what is matter. Perfect. Now the third point here is that particles are in constant motion since they have kinetic energy, right? They are in constant motion. Now, this constant motion in solid, liquid, and gases, and we also consider plasma, right? Plasma is a gas in which we have ions, okay? So, particles are in constant motion since they have kinetic energy. So, they vibrate and wiggle in one place for solids, right? So, that gives you a definite shape, right? And a fixed volume, right? Both are fixed, correct? Now, in case of liquids, what happens to particles? They slide around and over each other, right? So they kind of slide, right? They kind of flow over each other, right? So they don't have shape, right? No fixed shape, but they have a fixed volume, right? Right? Shape changes, right? And thirdly, we have gases, right? So in gas, the particles move freely in the gases and in plasma. Also, plasma has ions, as you know, correct? So the fourth state of matter, plasma, which has ions. Now, so they move freely. That means what? That they have a fixed mass, right? As all have, but the volume and shape is not. Volume and shape changes. In fact, the gases will fill the whole space in which they are there. Perfect. So I hope that is clear and it reflects to you different states of matter and how, with this property, we can actually explain it. You see that? Perfect. Now let's look into the next point we had, and that is all particles of pure substances are identical, right? So that gives you the characteristics and properties of the matter itself. So if a pure substance is there, then in that case, it will have one kind of particles, and any section or any part of that material will exhibit that characteristics, right? You get the whole idea, right? So, if we have a substance formed with two or more pure substances, in that case, every bit of that matter will exhibit that property of the matter, right? So, it attains the properties of the smallest particle, defining that particular matter. I hope that is clear, right? And then we write particles of different pure substances are different. So when we say these two substances are different, primarily we are saying that the identity which is defining them, the particles, they are different. And that is why their characteristics is also different. Makes sense, right? So that is how we are developing it, understanding point by point each and every part of this particle theory, since it actually lays a great foundation for us to understand science as we move along, right? Now, so what we have understood from here is that any substance, if it is pure, it will have just one kind of particles, right? But many other different kind of particles can make other substances where the nature of that particular matter will depend on how it is formed. What is the basic particle? There, it could be a molecule, right? Like a molecule of water, right? Molecule of water is very different from that of hydrogen and oxygen, right? So when you have water, correct, and we have hydrogen gas and oxygen gas, you know how different they are, right? As far as hydrogen is concerned, it is combustible, right? It burns, right? As far as the oxygen is concerned, it helps in burning, correct? How about water? It extinguishes, right? So, what you see is that hydrogen as a gas is made up of only one type of atoms, which are hydrogen atoms. It gives its characteristic property of burning by itself, right? And oxygen helps in burning. Those are those kinds of particles. However, if you add these two and are in a position to make another substance which has molecules of water, they help you extinguishing the fire, right? You see how they are different, right? Now, this pure water is also a substance, right? But it has different properties of its constituent elements. This is what we're trying to say here, right? Now, how do you get pure substances? As earlier said, raw materials or minerals can be purified to get the pure substance, right? So, right, rocks, we see in the rocks we do have salt. We can actually extract salt from the rocks, right? Okay, next point was that particles at higher temperature moves faster than at lower temperature. Now this is very important property. In the coming videos we are going to discuss the change in state of matter, where we are going to explore more of this particular property, and it also gives you many other characteristics of the matter itself. Now, the last one here is about particles have force of attraction between them and other particles, right? So, as you can very clearly see, when we talked about hydrogen, they bond together, right? So, this bonding together, that is the hydrogen basic particle for hydrogen gas. You get the whole idea, right? Now, in case of water, we have oxygen binding itself with two hydrogen, right? And that is H2O, and this is water for us, right? So, Forces of attraction between hydrogen and hydrogen, right? They bond together. Forces of attraction between hydrogen and oxygen, they bond together, right? Similarly, there could be other elements. Like with carbon, we can bind four hydrogen atoms forming CH4, right? So different kinds of bondings are there depending on what is the force of attraction, which is a more powerful force, right, which binds them together. Salt, which we talked about, is NaCl. We have many videos on NaCl, the salt, where sodium acts as a positive ion, chlorine as a negative ion. They come together and form salt, which is very stable, right? You can see, and it has totally different properties than sodium and chlorine. So that's again a very important particle theories part, which explains many different things. So, what have we learned in this particular video? We have learned about particles. Here is the summary for you, right? So, these are the 6 points which we have discussed in this particular video. Let us summarize and make a note of this, right? So, I'd like you to pause the video and summarize the learnings. These can really help you to lay a great foundation for science. So, as I was saying, when we are talking about particle theory, it is also referred to as kinetic molecular theory. Since particles are always in motion, they have mass and velocity, which is the kinetic energy. And when we talk about particles in this video, we are talking about atoms, molecules, and ions. We are not talking about fermions or bosons or even electrons or protons or neutrons. Electrons, protons, and neutrons do not give the characteristic property to the matter. It is the property of atoms and molecules which the matter takes, and therefore it makes sense to look at this particular particle rather than its subdivision, my subdivided particles. You get the whole idea, right? So, for the scientists, when they look at matter, it is important to look into the basic particle, which is atoms, molecules, and ions. I hope this point is absolutely clear, right? And uh, here and there, just referring to other things is diversion. So, maybe good to explore, but let's have a focus here. Now, first point is that matter is made up of extremely small, indivisible particles with mass. Second, there are spaces between particles and they occupy space. 3. Particles are in constant motion since they have kinetic energy. Vibrate and wiggle in one place for solids, slide around and over each other in liquids, and move freely in gases. 4. All particles of a pure substance are identical, have same properties, and are different from other pure substances. 5. Particles at higher temperatures move faster than at lower temperature. And the last point 6 is particles have force of attraction between them and other particles. I hope it makes sense. Feel free to like and subscribe to my videos. Thanks for your valuable time and all the best.